The echoes of Lumira. They say the city of Lumira was built on the edge of the sky. I used to think it was just a poetic saying until the day the wind carried my name across the horizon. I was standing on the marble terraces, staring at the endless expanse where clouds met the sea, when I heard it, Kale. A whisper, thin as starlight, weaving through the breeze. It wasn't the first time the wind had spoken, but it was the first time it sounded like it knew me. Lumira glowed differently that evening. The towers shimmered in their golden light, not from the setting sun, but from something deeper, something alive. The city had always pulsed with quiet energy, like the heart of the world itself beat beneath its crystal streets. My mother used to tell me the glow came from the echoes, remnants of ancient guardians who shaped the world before memory existed. To most, those were stories to lull children into awe. To me, they were warnings, because Lumira remembers, and sometimes it remembers too much. That night, I felt the air shift. Every lantern flickered as if the city took a slow breath, waiting. The sound of distant chimes echoed from the central spire, the Tower of Ain. That was where the luminaries gathered, keepers of the city's light, chosen to maintain the balance between what was seen and what was hidden. My mother had once been one of them before she vanished into silence. I was only 6 then. Now, 17 years later, the same whisper that took her had come for me. The people around me didn't notice it. How could they? The whispers only reached those who were called. And once you were called, you could never truly rest again. I turned toward the tower as the clouds began to shift. The moon emerged, pale and fractured, reflecting like broken glass upon the city's waterways. That's when I saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of the highest bridge, motionless, cloaked in silver light. No one else seemed to see her. She raised her hand, slow and deliberate, and the air trembled as the sound of bells deepened. Kale of Lumira, her voice flowed like silk and thunder. The time has come to remember. The moment she spoke, the marble beneath my feet glowed faintly, veins of light spiraling outward from where I stood. The echoes, those shimmering threads that ran through the city, responded to my presence. I stumbled backward, my pulse racing, but the world itself seemed to breathe with me. "Who are you?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped backward and vanished into the air as if she were part of the moonlight itself. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw fragments of something: ancient cities buried beneath oceans, constellations bending out of place, voices calling from beyond the horizon. And always, at the center of it all, the same Tower Ain shining like a heartbeat. A T-dog. I made my decision. If Lumira had chosen to remember me, then I would go where the memory began. The streets were empty when I reached the base of the tower. The gates stood open, which was strange. They never opened without summons. I stepped through, and the world fell silent. The air grew heavy, as if each breath I took disturbed something sacred. The marble inside was carved with flowing runes, their meanings lost to all but the luminaries. But as I brushed my fingers across them, they flared with pale blue light. The symbols recognized me. The tower knew me. That realization should have terrified me, but instead, it felt like coming home. The spiral stairway wound upward endlessly, each step echoing like a heartbeat. I climbed for what felt like hours until I reached a vast chamber bathed in amber light. At its center floated a sphere, crystalline, suspended by invisible forces, spinning slowly. Within it swirled shapes, images, moments, people walking through centuries. The past, alive and breathing. The echo chamber. I approached it cautiously. The air hummed, faintly, singing, like the space itself remembered a song too old for mortal tongues. My reflection in the sphere wasn't mine anymore. The eye staring back glowed faint gold, the mark of those who'd been chosen. My mother had once had those same eyes. Kale, her voice again. Only now, it wasn't from beyond. It came from within the sphere. Her image appeared soft, ageless, wrapped in the light of memory. "Mother," she smiled, and I saw both sorrow and pride reflected in her face. "Lumira awakens once more," she said. "And with it, the chains that hold the world together begin to loosen." "Don't understand. You vanished," everyone said. "There was no vanishing," she interrupted. only a return. The city's light isn't eternal by nature, it is fed by remembrance. Every century, one has chosen to rekindle the echoes, to keep the veil between the worlds intact. I was chosen once, and now, you are. The chamber trembled. Light streaked up the walls, spiraling toward the ceiling as though the stars themselves were watching. Why me? Because the world has forgotten its song, she whispered, and you are its echo. Before I could respond, the sphere pole's blinding light surged outward, washing everything in gold. The ground beneath me dissolved into brilliance, and I was falling not through air, but through memory. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in Lumira anymore. I stood in a vast field beneath twin suns, their light painting the world in hues of amber and violet. Ruins stretched across the horizon, ancient, silent, crumbling beneath the weight of time. The air shimmered with energy, alive, but heavy with melancholy. I wasn't alone. A figure approached draped in silver, her face hidden beneath the veil of starlight. She carried no weapon, yet every step she took made the earth hum. Welcome to the first memory, she said. This is where your kind learn to dream, mind. Those who shape with light, who weave the threads of the echoes. Once, you were called luminaries. Now, you have forgotten what it means to be awake. I tried to speak, but the world around us began to shift, time bending like glass under heat. I saw fragments of civilizations rising and falling, oceans splitting, constellations being painted across the heavens, and in each vision, I saw her, my mother, watching, waiting, guarding something that glowed brighter than any sun. What is this place? I asked. The heart of remembrance, she answered. But be warned, Kale, every light casts a shadow, and even Lumira has forgotten the cost of its own brilliance. The ground quaked. A deep sound rolled through the sky, as though the universe itself sighed. The woman raised her hand, and the trembling ceased. Your city is not what you believe, she said quietly. The echoes you serve are not voices of the past, they are fragments of those who came before. The guardians bound their essence into Lumira so the world would never fade. But now, the balance falters. Then tell me what I must do. Her gaze pierced through me. You must remember what has been forgotten, but to do so, you must first lose what you hold most dear. Her words struck deeper than any blade. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the horizon darkened. The twin suns dimmed as shadows began to creep from the ruins. They weren't creatures, not truly, more like distortions, reflections of things that once were. They are the forgotten, she said. Echoes that have lost their memory. They feed on what remains of light. The air grew colder. One of the shadows reached toward me, its form trembling. Human-shaped, but hollow. I felt its presence brush against my chest. A strange pull, like gravity itself trying to unmake me. Instinctively, I raised my hand and light erupted. A symbol flared across my palm, the same that had burned on my mother's. The shadows recoiled, retreating into the dusk. The woman smiled faintly. So it begins, she said. You have awakened the first key. The world blurred again. When I blinked, I was back inside the Tower of Aim, gasping, trembling, the mark still glowing faintly on my skin. The sphere floated before me, calm once more, but different, its light now tinged with silver instead of gold. I wasn't the same either. The whispering wind that had once felt distant now hummed within my bones, familiar, alive. Lumira still slept, but I could feel her stirring, and somewhere deep beneath the shining streets, something waited to awaken with her. As the first rays of dawn broke across the city, I knew one thing with certainty: this was only the beginning. The stars had begun to whisper again, and this time, they remembered everything. The city didn't feel the same anymore. Even the light had changed. Where it once shimmered like clear water, it now pulsed like a heartbeat, slower, heavier, alive in a way that unsettled me. Every street I walked seemed to hum beneath my feet, as though the stones themselves recognized what had happened inside the Tower of Aim. The mark on my palm still glowed faintly beneath my glove. I kept it hidden. Lumira might have forgotten many of her truths, but her people had not forgotten their fear of what they could not name. And the mark was a name written in light. It spoke of something older than the city, older than even the guardians themselves. I could hear the whispers now, soft, constant, woven into the wind. They followed me through the markets, along the bridges, across the terraces where people gathered to watch the horizon fade into mist. I tried to ignore them, but every time I passed near a reflective surface, water, glass, polished stone, the voices grew stronger. Kale, find the heart. The first time I heard that phrase, I froze. It wasn't my imagination. The voice was the same that had spoken to me in the chamber, the woman cloaked in silver. The heart. The word itself vibrated through me, stirring something deep, something that wasn't entirely mine. My mother's last words echoed again in my memory. You must remember what has been forgotten. But how does one remember what never belonged to them in the first place? I left the marketplace and headed toward the lower districts. Most Lumirians avoided them. The glow that made the upper city shine barely touched the lower tiers. Here, the air was colder, the light dimmer, the streets alive with the quiet murmur of those who lived in the shadow of the great towers. It was said that beneath these streets ran the old channels, the arteries of Lumira, where the first guardians had carved their runes into the foundations. No one knew how deep they went, but I intended to find out. A faint vibration guided me as I descended. The sound of the city above faded until there was only the whisper of wind and the distant hum of light veins running through the stone. The mark on my palm grew brighter the deeper I went. The tunnels were older than I expected. The walls were covered in intricate carving, spirals, constellations, fragments of language I could not read but somehow understood. The same patterns that had glowed in the tower. At the end of one corridor, I found a circular door sealed with a sigil. I pressed my palm against it, and it opened silently. Inside lay a chamber unlike anything I had ever seen. The walls pulsed with living light, breathing slowly, as though the room itself were alive. In its center hovered a fragment of crystal, black as shadow, yet threaded with veins of silver. It pulsed faintly in rhythm with my heartbeat. The heart of Lumira, I whispered, and the moment I said it, the crystal flared. Images flooded my mind, visions that weren't mine, but belonged to the city itself. The birth of Lumira, forged from the tears of the first guardians. A people who once walked among stars. The binding of light and memory into stone, so that their essence would never fade. And then, silence, of forgetting, the world turning away from what it once was. I saw my mother standing where I now stood. Her hands raised toward the crystal, her eyes glowing with the same mark that now burned in mine. But there was something else, another presence, watching from the shadows, vast and ancient. A voice broke through the vision, deep and resonant. The heart remembers only what is given to it. To awaken the light, you must first offer your truth. The chamber darkened. I felt a pull, a question that wasn't asked with words, but with essence itself. What truth would I offer? I didn't know. I had no answers. Only fragments: fear, love, confusion, longing for a mother lost to memory, and a city that no longer knew its own name. I offer what remains, I whispered. If Lumira remembers me, then let her know me as I am. The light responded. It surged through the room, wrapping around me in waves of warmth. For a moment, I thought I saw the outline of something vast, a being made of light, neither male or female, ageless and serene. Then everything went still, the crystal dimmed, and I found myself alone once more. Only now, the mark on my hand had changed. Where before it had been a symbol of light, now it bore the faint outline of a circle with a single line through its center, the same symbol carved above the gates of the Tower of Ain, the mark of the Seeker. I didn't have time to understand it. The walls around me began to tremble, and the air grew cold. The whispers that had once been gentle turned sharp, fragmented, desperate. Too soon. One hissed. The balance trembles. Another moaned. Kale, they are waking. The ground split. Light poured upward, blinding, and I stumbled backward as something vast moved beneath the chamber floor. The heart of Lumira pulsed once, twice, and then went dark. I ran. By the time I reached the surface, dawn had broken, but the city no longer shimmered gold. A pale light lingered, thin and uncertain, like a memory struggling to stay alive. People were gathering in the streets, pointing toward the sky, The veil, the shimmering field of light that protected Lumira's horizon, was flickering. Something was wrong. I pushed through the crowd toward the upper terrace. From there, I could see it clearly. The veil was fracturing, veins of shadow threading through the golden light. And through those cracks, I saw something beyond shapes moving in the mist, like echoes of forgotten forms pressing against the edges of reality. The forgotten. The same shadows I had seen in the first memory, the luminaries gathered at the tower's base, their white robes glowing faintly. Their leader, Archon Saren, raised his hands to calm the crowd. His voice carried effortlessly through the city. The veil falters, but it is not yet lost. Remain steadfast. The Guardians still watch over us. But I could hear the lie in his voice. The Guardians hadn't spoken in centuries. The echoes had fallen silent long before my birth, and yet, they were whispering. Now, to me. As the crowd dispersed, Saren's eyes met mine. There was recognition there, and fear. He approached slowly, the light around him dimming as if the city itself avoided him. You were in the tower, he said quietly. You touched the echo. I didn't just touch it, I replied. It called me. His expression hardened. Then you have done something you cannot undo. The balance was fragile. You may have awakened what should have remained forgotten. What was I supposed to do? The city is dying. Lumira cannot die, he said sharply. She can only forget. And you, Kale of the Lower Windspire, have reminded her too soon. Before I could respond, the sky cracked. A sound like thunder rolled across the city as light split the heavens. The veil shimmered violently, and for one terrifying moment, it was as though the entire sky inverted gold turned to shadow, and shadow to light. Then everything went still. The veil held. Barely, but its glow was faint and unsteady. The people murmured, their faith shaken. Saren turned away without another word, and disappeared into the tower. I stood alone on the terrace. The wind cold against my face. The heart had awakened something. Something that remembered me, that night. As the city slept beneath its trembling sky, I returned to the chamber beneath Lumira. The heart was silent now, dark as obsidian. But as I reached out to touch it, faint silver light shimmered through the cracks. A whisper, softer than breath, reached my ears. 3 awakenings, 3 keys, and the gate of light will open. But beware, seeker, what is remembered cannot be forgotten again. I stepped back, heart racing. The first key had awakened when I touched the echo. The second, when I found the heart. And the third, waited still, somewhere beyond the veil. The stars above Lumira flickered like uncertain candles. The city slept, but the sky was dreaming again. And this time, the dream was restless. For 3 nights, the sky above Lumira refused to rest. The veil that once shimmered gold now flickered between shadow and silver, casting strange reflections across the marble terraces. The city whispered in unease. People began leaving offerings of crystal and incense at the edges of the bridges, whispering prayers to the guardians who hadn't answered in centuries. And through it all, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw fragments, shards of memory that weren't mine. A storm of light, a song that could bend stone, a gate suspended in the stars, and always the same voice. 3 awakenings, 3 keys. 2 keys already burned beneath my skin. The mark on my palm glowed faintly, and beneath it, a second pulse, slower, deeper beat in rhythm with the heart of Lumira below the city. But the third key, I didn't know where to find it. The answer came, as it always did. With the wind. It whispered my name from the eastern cliffs, where the light of Lumira met the horizon. No one went there anymore. The cliffs marked the very edge of the veil, the border between the known world and the endless storm that churned beyond. But something in that whisper carried the weight of command. I went alone. The path to the cliffs wound through the old gardens, where silver trees grew twisted and silent. Their leaves shimmered faintly, reflecting the colors of the veil like liquid mirrors. I passed statues eroded by centuries, guardians carved from obsidian and quartz. Their faces worn smooth, but their presence still heavy, as though the stone itself remembered reverence. At the edge of the cliffs, I found her, the woman of silver light. She stood barefoot on the wind, her veil fluttering in a breeze that didn't touch me. For a long time, neither of us spoke. "You followed the call," she said at last. "Good. The city remembers more quickly than I feared." "What is happening to it?" I asked. "The veil, why is it failing?" "Because it was never meant to last," she said softly. "The veil was a promise made by the guardians when they left this world behind. A promise that the realms of light and shadow would never touch again. But time erodes all things, even vows carved in light." She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw her eyes beneath the veil. They were not eyes of a mortal being, but of memory itself, shifting, infinite, filled with constellations I didn't recognize. "You carry the first two keys," she said, "but the third lies beyond the boundary, beyond Lumira's sight." "Beyond the veil?" She nodded. "Where the forgotten dwell. You will not find light there, only echoes of what once was and what was cast away." "How do I cross?" Her expression softened. "You don't cross the veil, Kale, you become it." Before I could ask what she meant, she reached out and placed her hand over mine. The moment our skin touched, the mark on my palm flared, and I felt something inside me unravel. The wind howled. The light around us broke into spirals, swirling upward like liquid fire. "You are the bridge now," she whispered. "Remember that, when the world begins to forget you." Then the ground vanished, the air twisted, and I was falling through light and shadow, through time itself. When I landed, the world was silent. I stood in what looked like Lumira, but hollow, empty, stripped of color. The towers still reached for the sky, but their glow was gone. The rivers of light that ran through the streets were frozen, pale as ash. The only sound was the slow, rhythmic echo of something vast breathing in the distance. This was the other side of the veil, the reflection of Lumira, the forgotten city. I began to walk. The silence pressed against me, heavy, suffocating. Shadows lingered at the edges of my sight, moving when I didn't look at them. The air shimmered faintly, like heat rising from stone, and in the distance, I saw a faint flicker of silver flame. It called to me. When I reached it, I found a vast plaza filled with statues, hundreds, maybe thousands, arranged in perfect stillness. Their faces were not carved. They were real, human. They were the echoed, the ones the city had forgotten. Every century, the story said, some were taken by the veil, people who vanished without a trace. Now, saw where they had gone. Each stood frozen in time, eyes wide, as though caught between memory and dream. Their chests glowed faintly, as if a fragment of light still lived inside them. And at the center of the plaza, a crystal throne rose from the stone. Upon it sat a figure draped in shadows. His eyes opened as I approached. "Another seeker," he said. His voice was deep, calm, almost human. "I thought your kind had forgotten this path." "Who are you?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "I was the first to bear your mark, the first who tried to bind light to memory, when Lumira was young, and the guardians still walked among us. I was chosen to guard the heart, but the city feared what it could not control, and so it cast me into the shadow." I felt the cold realization creep through me. "You're one of the guardians." "Not anymore," he said. "I am the reflection of what they abandoned, the part of them they chose not to remember." He stood, and the ground trembled. "You seek the third key, but before you claim it, you must answer a truth." He raised his hand, and the world dissolved. Suddenly, I was standing in my childhood home. The scent of light moss candles, the hum of the evening chimes, my mother's voice echoing softly from the other room. It was a memory perfect, unbroken. Then she stepped into view, not the memory of her I had carried all my life, but real, warm, alive. She smiled, and my chest ached. "Kale," she said softly, "why do you keep chasing what I left behind?" "Because I need to understand," I whispered. "Because you vanished, and no one would tell me why." "I didn't vanish," she said gently. "I returned to where I belong. You were never meant to follow me here. I didn't have a choice." She reached out, touching my face. "There's always a choice. The veil doesn't take, it offers. What you seek isn't light, Kale. It's memory. And memory is not truth, it's what the heart chooses to keep." The world around us flickered. The illusion trembled, breaking apart into shards of light. The guardian's voice returned. "Then speak." Seeker, what will you keep, and what will you let go? I looked into her eyes. The same eyes I had seen in every reflection of the city. I will remember, I said. Not because I must, but because without memory, light is hollow. The light exploded outward. When the brilliance faded, I stood once more in the plaza. The guardian was gone. In his place, a small fragment of crystal floated before me, clear as water, yet pulsing with a deep silver light. The third key. As I touched it, warmth flooded through me. The marks on my skin ignited, forming a circle of symbols that glowed brighter than the stars. For a moment, I saw them all, the three keys aligning like constellations, the gates of Lumira trembling in response. Then the voice of the silver woman whispered one final time, "The bridge is open." I looked up. Across the sky of the forgotten city, a great fissure of light spread, splitting the heavens apart. Beyond it, I saw Lumira itself, its towers blazing with gold, its rivers alive once more. But something else moved within that light, vast, formless, ancient. The guardians, or what was left of them. Their awakening had begun, and Lumira would never be the same again. The light tore through the sky like a living well. For a breathless moment, both worlds, the true Lumira and its reflection, existed side by side, suspended between memory and reality. The fissure above widened, spilling waves of radiance and shadow that rippled through the air, like a heartbeat shared by two dying stars. I could feel it inside me. The three keys pulsed in rhythm, their light threading through my veins until I could hardly tell where my body ended and the city began. Lumira's song was inside me now, every whisper, every sigh of wind between the spires, every forgotten dream carved into marble. I had become the bridge, but the bridge was beginning to break. The fissure's light grew harsher, turning gold to white, white to blinding silver. The air crackled with energy that hummed like 1,000 voices speaking at once. And through that hum, a deeper tone emerged, an echo that didn't belong to the living or the forgotten. The guardians were stirring. Across the horizon of the reflection, towers crumbled and rebuilt themselves in the same instant, as if memory itself was being rewritten. I could see shadows moving in the light, tall figures with faces of glass and eyes of fire. Each step they took left trails of brightness that scorched the ground. I had thought the guardians would be saviors, but now, looking upon them, I wasn't so sure. There was no mercy in their light, only hunger. The woman of silver appeared beside me again, her veil torn by the storm of radiance. Her form flickered between existence and absence, as though she too was caught in the rift's pull. "You open the way," she said, "but they do not remember themselves. The guardians have slept too long. Then how do I stop them?" She turned her gaze toward the fissure. "You don't stop what was never meant to end. You guide it." Her words sank into me like stones into water. "What do you mean, guide it?" She reached toward my chest, her fingers brushing the mark that now burned brighter than ever. "You are the last memory Lumira created, the living echo of what the guardians could not preserve. You must remind them what they once were, or everything will fade into silence." How can I remind gods who have forgotten their own names? By giving them yours. Before I could protest, she placed her hand flat against my heart. Light exploded between us, threads of silver and gold weaving outward into the air, linking me to the fissure above. I felt my pulse merge with the rhythm of the city, faster, deeper, ancient. The entire world was breathing with me. "Kale of Lumira," she whispered, her voice fading like a dying star. "Remember for them." And then she was gone. The fissure split completely. The light of the true Lumira poured into the reflection, and for a moment, both cities merged, streets aligning, rivers overlapping, towers shining through each other like ghosts. I stood at the center of the bridge, my body suspended between both realms. I could see everything in one world. The people of Lumira looked to the heavens, trembling before the brilliance tearing their sky apart. In the other, the shadows of the forgotten reached upward, desperate to return to the light that had abandoned them. And I understood. The veil had never been a wall, it was a promise. A fragile thread keeping the two halves of existence from devouring one another. The light of memory and the shadow of forgetting were not enemies, they were incomplete without each other. The guardians had tried to preserve light by erasing shadow, and in doing so, they had erased themselves. I raised my hands toward the fissure. The 3 keys flared, and a shockwave of silver fire spread across the sky. The cities trembled, but I held the weight of both worlds inside my chest, as though my heartbeat alone kept them from collapsing. Lumira, I whispered. You were never meant to be perfect. Only remembered. The light shifted. The fissure wavered, shrinking from chaos to calm. The blinding white softened into gold again. The 2 worlds began to align not as mirror and reflection, but as one. I saw the faces of the forgotten flicker with life. Their stillness melted into motion. Their eyes opened, filled with wonder and sorrow. The veil's hum turned from static to song. But then I felt it resistance. The guardians' forms loomed in the brilliance, towering, radiant, vast. Their voices collided like thunder. You cannot bind us with memory. We are light eternal. We do not need the shadow. Their voices shook my bones, but I stood firm. Without shadow, you cannot see your own light. They descended, their radiance burning through the sky. I raised the 3 keys, their light flaring in defiance. The ground cracked beneath me, but I didn't retreat. The bridge between worlds pulsed, trembling, threatening to collapse under the strain. One of the guardians reached out an immense hand of light that could unmake a mountain. But instead of striking me, it stopped just short, the glow dimming as it touched the edge of my aura. And in that instant, I saw it, the flicker of recognition, memory. They remembered me as Kale, but as every mortal who had ever looked to the stars and wondered what waited beyond them. Their light began to shift, less fierce, more human. The towering forms leaned closer, their voices softening into whispers that wove through the wind. You remember us? Yes, I said, the words trembling from somewhere deeper than speech. And you remember us? The fissure pulsed once more. The light poured inward, folding back into the sky like a breath released. One by one, the guardians faded, not vanishing, but dissolving into the air, their essence flowing through Lumira like a river of dawn. When the last of their light vanished, the city stilled. I fell to my knees. The marks on my skin dimmed, then faded entirely. The song of the echoes quieted to a single, steady hum, the heartbeat of a world made whole again. Lumira's towers glowed softly, their light no longer harsh gold, but gentle amber. The rivers shimmered with both silver and shadow. The veil had become something new, not a barrier, but a mirror of harmony. The people awoke the next morning to find the city breathing differently. The air was alive, the streets brighter, the sky clear. They didn't remember the rift. To them, it was as if a long storm had finally passed. But I remembered everything. And in that remembering, I understood what my mother had tried to tell me all those years ago. Lumira's light was never meant to last forever, it was meant to be reborn. Each time through the memory of those who dared to see both beauty and sorrow as one. That evening, I stood at the highest terrace of the Tower of Ain. The city stretched before me, luminous and calm. Somewhere below, the people sang their voices carrying through the air like a gentle tide. As the stars began to rise, I felt the wind stir. It whispered my name one last time, not as a call, but as gratitude. And then, for the first time in my life, Lumira fell silent. Not an empty silence, a peaceful one, because she no longer needed to remember. She was finally whole.